Hey everyone, I'll show you how to install Descent, the game I've been playing lately. And I also show you two ways in which you can make a server to play it online. Maybe I'll make a public server one day, so start practicing. Well, let's start by installing it. I will be using a source port, since the original Descent doesn't run natively on a modern PC. The source port that I will be using is called DXX-Rebirth, which is the one I use, but if you choose another source port, multiplayer won't be compatible with DXX-Rebirth. And keep in mind that even using a source port, you will need the original Descent data files. If you don't have them, you will need to source them yourself through Steam, GOG, or a site like that. Once you acquire the files, or if you have them already, you can then download DXX-Rebirth. Links in the description, as every YouTuber says. If you are using Windows, you just download and extract the Windows package version that is on the website, and then copy and paste the contents of the data folder from the original Descent to the data folder that is inside the extracted archive. I recommend you download the SC55 soundtrack that is on the website. It is an add-on for the music, and otherwise it will be using MIDI music, which just sounds bad on modern systems. That should be it for the Windows version. Meanwhile, if you're using Linux, it's a bit less straightforward. You can try to install it through your package manager, but I do not recommend it because in Fedora 38, which is the one I use, the package had a lower protocol version for the network multiplayer than the one the latest Windows package has, and it made it so I could not play with people using Windows. Maybe if you are using Arch Linux or other rolling release distributions it would be okay, but since I'm using Fedora 38, that's not an option. In the website it gives you a link to the source code, so you can compile it yourself. However, even though that is not that hard to do, I use an easier and more convenient option. I found a fork project that has precompiled app images, which are kind of like exe files. That's what I'll use. With the app image, you just give it executable permissions and just run it. But you do need to copy the data folder from the original Descent to the folder in your home folder. That folder is normally .d1x-rebirth. I don't use macOS, but installing it is just like installing an app image. But the data folder is on Home, Library, Preferences, and D1X-Rebirth. That's all there is to installing it, whether it is on Windows or on Linux. Now I will show you how to set up multiplayer so that you can play with people on the internet. Supposedly it's really easy, you just enable Nat Hole Punch in the settings and it will just work. However, I had no luck with that. Feel free to install it and see if it works without any additional programs or port forwarding, and tell me in the comments if it did. If it doesn't, however, I have a plan B. I use a program called playit.gg, a program that uses tunneling to route the connection so that you do not need to set up port forwarding in games. I won't go into too much detail since I already made a video on the topic, and it explains how to install it also. Anyway, you only need to set up a tunnel with playit for UDP with the port 42424, which is the one DX-Rebirth uses. And then on the DX-Rebirth settings, you disable Nat Hole Punch but keep enabled the tracker. If the tracker works, the other player can find your game on the list. If not, you give them the IP and port that playit gives you. That's all, pilots, prepare for Descent!